Welcome to the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, a weekly broadcast sponsored by CVC Coaching, hosted each week by industry speaker, coach, author, and educator Jerry Eisenhower. Our presentations are produced to assist business owners and managers in turning their business dreams into their business realities. And now, here's your host, Jerry Eisenhower.
And I want to welcome you to another episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. This is sponsored each and every week by CVC Coaching. Check out our coaching, check out our new educational online platform. And hey, we're here to help you reach your dreams, but we're not here today to talk and promote what we do. Today, we've got another great guest on the program, and he's bringing a great message that I think a lot of people need to hear. And that is how to properly network, how to communicate, and how to work more closely with home inspectors. Now, I know a lot of you guys that may be listening to this, you may be real divided on networking with a home inspector. So what I want to do in this podcast today, I want to dispel some, myths about home inspectors. We're going to talk about, what is the standard of care that home inspectors operate to. Now, my guest today, I stumbled across this guy about 6 months ago, and he's located in Florida, North Florida. And how I stumbled across him was he was a home inspector, and, we'll talk a little bit about that, but he had actually purchased a chimney sweeping operation. So when I first talked to him, it's like, man, you going to be sweeping chimneys or what? And he told me, he said, no, I saw the potential in this industry. So we have purchased a company, and we are looking to purchase more in Florida. So at the end of it, I determined during this conversation, this gentleman was not going to be in the field as a working chimney sweep. Rather, he was a true entrepreneur, and we'll get a little bit of his background in this today. But I want to welcome today to join us a guy by the name of Wally Conway. So Wally, you out there with me today, brother?
I am here, Jerry, and grateful to be with you.
That's good, Wally. Well, listen, you and I have talked a couple times. I went to the ASHI show down in Florida. You came down. We talked some down there in Orlando. But first of all, tell the people a little bit about your history, of what you did, how you got into home inspection, and then what has led you to now being in the chimney service industry.
Well, thanks, Jerry. I grew up in New Jersey, escaped from there, went to the Naval Academy, graduated from there, and I was a Navy pilot. During my Navy pilot time, I got involved in residential real estate, building houses, renovating, flipping houses, and doing whatnot. Was a licensed contractor. So when I retired from the Navy in '94, I knew I wanted to do something that related to houses, and it ended up being home inspection. At that time, there were 9 home inspectors in the phone book here in Jacksonville, Florida. I became number 10, and 35,000 home inspections later, here we are today.
I hear you, man. So 35,000, that's a lot of home inspections. So I'm presuming that means you got home inspectors that are working with you. Tell them what the name of your company is in home inspections, and how far your reach is in the world of home inspections.
Well, it's Home Inspections. We're based in Jacksonville, Florida. We go about 100 miles in any direction from Jacksonville. We also have a commercial inspection company, Monument Commercial Inspections. That footprint's just a little bit larger. But from early on, I knew I wanted to build a business, and I haven't done a physical home inspection in about 10 years. Rather, we have a staff of 8 or so that does do that work.
Okay, so you are operating in the home inspection industry where there's varying cost factors and people charge varying amounts of money for their services. I know one of the things I've done is I've reviewed the home inspection industry very closely. I've appeared on some podcasts in the industry, and I've had home inspectors in classes. Actually, for about 30 some years now, I've done classes for home inspectors on chimney inspection. But do you agree that there's a need for home inspectors and chimney service companies to network together? And if you do, how do they do that? How do we accomplish that happening? Because I feel like networking is one of the biggest ways there is to build a business. So what's your feeling on this, Wally?
I absolutely agree with you. And I didn't know how much I agreed with you until you and I met through another home inspector friend of ours, Preston Sandlin. Up until then, I didn't realize how valuable the chimney sweep could really be to us. So for 25 years, we were referring chimney sweeps, chimney repairs to a CSIA member here in Jacksonville. And we never really had a true training and development type relationship. I was totally unaware of how much I didn't know about chimneys and chimney inspections. This from a guy that we've done 35,000 of them. It's frightening.
Yep, I understand. So how do these two groups, how do they network together better? How do they reach out to each other? I mean, somebody's got to reach out that hand, and a lot of times you got to do it more than once. But what's some of the ways that chimney service companies can network and reach out to home inspectors to touch them?
I think the first piece is helping the home inspector understand the fabulous risk that there is to them by not knowing more about chimneys. So regardless of whether it's a state licensed home inspector or they're following ASHI standards or NACHI standards, they all have a requirement to inspect the fireplace, inspect the chimney, inspect the flue. No one tells them how to do it. No one tells them how to do it. So and the other issue of that is they have no earthly idea, we home inspectors as a group, I didn't know any of this until 6 months ago, that essentially a CSIA level 1 chimney inspection matches the SOP or statutory requirements very well for a visual examination. Almost no one in the home inspection universe has any earthly idea of what a level 2 or 3 home inspection or chimney inspection is. And I think there's a great bridging piece there as educators and collaborators first and foremost. And then from that comes a position of respect that I believe is a natural flow of business in both directions.
Yeah, and you mentioned level 1 inspection. And I think that this is a key part of the process where the chimney service heavily deals with a standard of care that's directed by NFPA 211. But home inspectors have a different standard of care that is documented by various state laws. Like I live in North Carolina where home inspectors are licensed, but a home inspector has a standard of care when he does a home inspection relating to a chimney or a fireplace or a wood stove. Now, one of the words that I see commonly in there is readily accessible, which is a term that any certified chimney sweep would understand. So the thing is that the home inspector has a standard of care. Can you go into a little more details? What is the standard of care for a home inspector when he encounters a fireplace, a chimney, or a wood stove in a home? What's the criteria he's required to follow? And many times this is under his licensing with the state.
Well, that's really where my concern comes from, Jerry, is no matter the state or which SOP they're working from, it just says go look at it. Look at the flue, look at the chimney, look at the fireplace. The few, if any, home inspectors have the real skill set. They haven't been educated of what to look for and how to approach that level 1 with any amount of detail. So in one sense, the statute or SOP is telling them to do it, yet through the various professional organizations of home inspections, whether it's a training organization or a trade organization, they're not teaching how to do that piece of it well at all.
I understand. So I know whenever I've done podcasts and I've also done online seminars for, there's an online ASHI group. I did a class 4 one night back in January. And what I'm commonly finding is home inspectors, once you share with them some of the obvious things that you know as a chimney sweep, such as one of the things I concentrate on is telling them to look at colors of the masonry, looking for areas of discoloration, looking at problems such as a stacked fireplace. You've got one above another. Well, actually, this industry's never been trained in offsets and chimneys, those type of things. Now, Tom Urban has sold some chimney cameras, chimney inspection cameras into the home inspection market. But again, these home inspectors have never been skilled in what's involved. So let me go a little further. If there's a furnace chimney or a boiler chimney or a water heater system, is the home inspector's standard of care? Does it stop at the wall? Do they have to remove the pipe to look into it? What do they have to do, Wally?
It stops at the wall, the thimble, or that penetration. Virtually no home inspection statute or SOP has the home inspector disassembling anything at all.
And that's what's real important. And I think that's what you share with people. And in order to share with people, the first thing you have to do, if you're going to network with a group, is you've got to understand what are they doing. You've got to understand why they do it. And you've got to understand what their standard of care is. Because if you're talking NFPA 211 standards, this is more than likely something that the home inspection industry does not bore down like we do in the chimney service industry. Would you agree with that, Wally?
You're absolutely correct, Jerry. The home inspector has no earthly idea as a general group. NFP 211, you might as well tell them it's in Greek. That's not done. The same with the IRC book. Very, very rarely is the home inspector deep into code. So it's a different skill set. As a company at Home Pro Inspections, we've completely changed our approach to that group of systems and how we inspect and how we report. And we are recommending a level 2 on virtually every, we see very few furnaces here, but virtually every fireplace, we're recommending a level 2.
Got you covered. So one of the things is, and this amazed me when I started researching, I'd always heard of ASHI, American Society of Home Inspectors, and I had always thought that that was the group for home inspectors. Then all of a sudden, as I looked at this, I found out there was another group called InterNACHI. And further than that, I found out that InterNACHI was a much larger group than the ASHI group was. So give us a little history how the home inspection industry has two different associations and what the two do. So can you tell us a little bit about ASHI and InterNACHI?
I can, and I'll make every effort to be objective and not political, because as we all know, when there are multiple organizations in the same industry, sometimes political overrides the practical. Have you ever observed that?
I would say I can see that quite often in many groups, Wally. Let's leave it at that.
Anyway, so ASHI was founded in the 70s, and they became the national player. They did a good job in Washington. In fact, when they were founded, they were in Georgetown outside of Washington. They did a very good job of getting the word out to legislatures. They did a great job. However, they weren't as member friendly as they could have been. They viewed, some of the old guard viewed ASHI membership as a barrier to entry into the business. So it was a way to say we're extra special and everyone else is evil. And what came from that is InterNACHI came up out of the ground about 15 years ago and was totally focused on inclusion. And by focusing on inclusion and education, there's now well over 20,000 members of NACHI, and there's maybe a third to a quarter of that many in ASHI. So inclusion and education has really helped the industry, really helped the individual inspectors, and that's kind of how that played out.
I understand exactly. So that kind of tells you, and maybe there's Wally, do you feel there's a lesson there for other people could learn from watching that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know. Yeah. When you build an organization and its intent is to be exclusive, well, that's a positive if that exclusivity is based on education to constantly raise the bar. When you begin to make it difficult to get education or difficult to get certification, or you're not open to the idea of inclusion, not just of members, but of vendors and of training providers to really come from it come to it from a mindset that says a rising tide lifts all boats, then you end up with a division. And when there's a division, you end up with winners and losers. And usually the people who are inclusive become the winner. And it's very interesting, Jerry, if you look at virtually any industry, and the chimney industry appears to be even smaller than the home inspection industry. When you look at other industries around us, we look at National Association of Home Builders, National Association of Realtors, Air Conditioning Contractors Association. There's typically one that rises to the top. It's very rare for an industry, American Medical Association. Rarely does a trade or profession rise to a level of visibility and prominence with a fractured trade group.
And I would agree with that wholeheartedly. So what you're looking at here, and like I said, when I got into this was really shocking when I found out about the InterNACHI group. And then I started looking at what they were doing, how they were doing it, and the different ways. Definitely there's a lesson there for anyone. So, it's kind of, like I said, it's ways to learn, to build. Some of this comes, hey, I'm in my mid 60s. A lot of this comes with maturity. A lot of this comes with experience. But what I'm hearing is that a common group working together for the common good is the way to reach the highest heights. Wally, would you agree with that?
Completely. There's always a fear. Fear drives us more than pleasure, I think, sometimes. But my mindset is I reach out to everybody. I have 2 meetings a month, and I invite every single home inspector within 100 miles or more of Jacksonville. We get together once a month for a training session. We get together once a month for a happy hour. I reach out to sweeps. I want to meet and know every sweep in the area. And as you know, I was at CSIA for the first time there at the Guild out in Portland. Wonderful event. So what I've learned over these long years in home inspection and this coming up on a year in the chimney world is when you reach out to people, they're scared and nervous. Why are you calling me? Why? You're my competitor. I don't want to talk to you. I'm like, well, let's just sit down and have a conversation. And when we do that within our little rice bowls and then jump between bowls, as I think you are advocating, and we've been doing actively here between the home inspection side and the chimney side, you meet some great people and you'll learn some things you wouldn't otherwise have known. And along the way, you end up building both businesses a little bit stronger.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Wally. Number one, I've talked to you enough to know you got a lot of business smarts, okay? Number two, I don't think you would have invested into the chimney service industry as you have or as you're planning to unless you saw a really big future. So, Wally, reach down in your crystal ball for me a minute and tell me, as an entrepreneur, what do you foresee as the future for the chimney service industry?
I see growth and I see consolidation is my belief. And I believe that because I've seen it happen in the home inspection universe, and it's happened in virtually every other service industry. The truth of it is, and this will be uncomfortable for some, but the man in a van business model in any service or trade, or it goes for accountants also, but the man in a van acting alone is a very, very difficult life. When you're the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, you're taking out the trash, you're doing all those things. You can generate a bit of income from that, but you can't generate a quality of life. And more, what we're seeing across all areas of service, all areas of business, is that move toward consolidation. So that if you're an extraordinary technician at what you do, that's the best place to spend your time. And if you're an extraordinary marketing person, that's the best place to spend your time. And by essentially playing teams, building businesses, you end up providing a much nicer life for people and and for yourself, and you end up taking better care of the customer. And it's so interesting in the sweep business versus the home inspection business. In the home inspection business, it's absolutely seasonal and cyclic, but it's nowhere near all the way on or all the way off like I hear from so many sweeps around the country. And I think that bringing a business approach to it, we can dampen out that off season to cause a more even revenue stream and a more stable income environment for yourself, as well as not being the guy that all of a sudden in season you're working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week for 4 months. The only other people I see that act that crazy are CPAs during tax season.
Yeah. And Wally, as you was going through that, if you listen to this, I would replay that, because I think, Wally, what you just spit out was also the message you've got to get into your recruitment policy. That's one of the things we're working heavily right now is, I've got there's three processes that I think you have to do to build a business. And that's dealing with your team members. Number one, you have to have an effective recruitment policy. And number two, you have to have an effective onboarding policy. And number three, you've got to have an effective in-house training program. I mean, that's one of the reasons I just launched what I call my 100-day success plan, to take a raw recruit to being a skilled, certified, and profitable service technician in 100 days. So this is the message that you've got to get out to prospects. Would you agree that that's part of the recruitment message for today's millennials that are going to be the majority of your new hires, Wally?
Wholeheartedly. And there's a reality too. When a person in a business, home inspection business, chimney business, service business, you're working hard, you're busy, and you're generating a reasonable income, you think, I need another guy. It's almost impossible in any business to have a two-person business or a three-person business. The business needs to be built with a focus on powering through that danger zone. The reality that the expenses are going up, the reality that the margins will shrink a bit until you power through that to the other end. I watch so many businesses bring on that second or third guy, and they get frustrated or they go broke going, my gracious, it was easier when I was alone. So much like your program is to recognize that and put the tools there on your dashboard to push through that, knowing until you get to the other side, it's misery and it's expensive.
That's it. And one of the things, Wally, one of the things I learned from you whenever we first met and we first talked, and actually the first time we met face to face was at that Ashley show. But one thing you had shared with me was the amount of coaching that you had engaged to help you over the years. In fact, when we talked, that was one of the things. Jerry, I've got plenty of coaching. Coach is not what I need. I need systems to train my people. Do you remember that conversation?
I remember it well.
Yeah. And so that's what it is. So that's there. So and that's in today's world. So is coaching something that you feel will help people get to that higher level, Wally?
Absolutely. I spend $20,000 to $30,000 a year of my own money, or I guess I should say the company money, on coaching and training for me individually. That I have people that help me with over the years, not all at the same time. How do I manage my time? How do I manage my finances? How do I get that? And it's an important distinction between a coach and a trainer. A trainer, we see a lot of training. Hey, go do this and you'll be fine. In that coaching model, there's an accountability. My call after our podcast is with my business coach. We talk for 30 minutes every single Friday, and we begin every single call with the numbers from the week before. What's the gross, what's the net, how many of this, how many of that. We have key metrics, KPIs, that we hit, and I'm accountable to meet them, as well as the accomplishments of the tasks that we agreed were critical to grow the business from the week before.
Yep. All good, Wally. Well, let me ask you this. You're a guy that is you were a pilot. You went into and became an entrepreneur. You're a very sharp and astute business person. You've grown a business in the home inspection industry that probably few people realize that you could do. And so I'm going to ask you this. Our primary people that are going to be listening to this are going to be members of the chimney service industry and the hearth industry. So what would be your parting words of wisdom to these people, Wally? What would you share with them that they could say later, maybe today is that person's magic moment. Maybe you can do that. So what would be your words, Wally?
If I had to leave it to one particular thought, I would get a business coach. Get someone who's got the skill set and the mindset. Be candid with them, and I describe it as show them your underwear. Let them see your P&Ls. Let them see everything you've got, and then share with them what your dream life looks like. Not your dream business, first your dream life. How do you want to spend your time, and what financial position do you need to be in to live that life? And then build a business that matches that.
There you go. One of the things I learned years ago is your business exists for one reason, and that is to bring exactly what you're talking about, Wally. Your business exists not to be a trophy on your wall. Your business exists to be able to provide you the things that you want in this life. Would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. I got that actually from Gary Keller, who founded the largest real estate company in the world. Gary says the purpose of business is to fund the perfect life.
That's it. That's what it's all about. So I think for me and Wally today, that's what we want you to do. We would like you to see and take a renewed look. How do you move forward? And one of the ways is networking. And one of the groups to network with is real estate agents. Another group to network with is going to be home inspectors. But what you've got to do is reach out to these people. You've got to understand that realtor, she or he makes a living on house closures. You've got to understand this, and what you've got to do is communicate what your value is to them, not be looked at as a threat to them. Do you agree that maybe sometimes chimney service people are viewed by real estate agents and home inspectors as a threat?
For sure, more so to the agent. The real estate agent has a tremendous amount of money on the line, and we need to come and approach that as we're there to solve their problems, not to create problems and pound our chest about how smart we are.
That's it. So anyway, that was Wally Conway, and he runs a company called Go Home Pros, I believe. Is that correct, Wally?
The website is gohomepro.com. Home Pro Inspections is the home inspection company, and chimneychampions.com is the chimney company. So
anyway, hey, look Wally up. He's a great guy to talk to. He's busy. You have to set certain times up. He's an early morning guy. When we were setting up this podcast, it was like, he asked me, are you an early morning? No, I'm a late evening guy. So we're recording this about 10 in the morning, which was halfway for both of us. Okay. So anyway, going from there. So Wally, I appreciate you being with us today, my friend. And hopefully we can do some more things together in the future. If that works for you.
Looking forward to it, Jerry.
That's it. So this is Jerry Eisenhower with the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. We put this podcast on just about every week, and the purpose is to share methods and processes and strategies with you, and it's all about how to build that business that's your dream, but overall, it's about building that dream lifestyle. Look us up at cbccoaching.com. Check out our new Basecamp virtual learning platform. And hey, Wally, I got a new book coming out, probably going to be released in the next week. It's all about how to train raw recruits and take them to the position of that skilled technician. And it reviews the processes to be a phenomenal trainer like you've got to develop in your company. So hopefully that'll come out in the next week is what we're looking for right now. The art's been approved. The final edits were done. So hopefully we're going to submit that, and maybe it'll be up on Amazon by the time this goes out. So join us next week as we come forward every week and present various guests that can help you build that dream business. But the overall reason is to build that dream lifestyle. This is Jerry Eisenhower. Look forward to talking to you next time.
Thanks for joining us here each week at the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, sponsored by CVC Coaching, providing you the coaching and educational outreach services you need to move to your dream destination in business and in life.